And to wrap up episode 17, we continue Final Fantasy IV. Last episode we ended having obtained the Earth Crystal to trade with Golbez for Rosa's life. As soon as I enter the Enterprise, the Red Wing ship shows up beside us. When Cecil asks Kain where Rosa is, Kain replies with the Tower of Zot and has him follow him there with another unexpected DS cutscene slotted in. The party arrive in the tower, but Kain is nowhere to be seen. Golbez starts talking, complimenting Cecil's performance. He has Rosa at the top of the tower, he'll make the trade if they can get there. He does leave one hint that they should be quick though. Tower of Zot's first floor is very simple. I just run up the western end, grabbing a chest in the northwest corner, and east along the north to the door to the next floor. On this floor we get the first new enemies of this episode, Centaur Knight and Frost Beast. The first fight of the episode also has Cecil reach level 23. The one chest on this floor has a flame mail inside. It's a 4-point increase of Cecil and despite the name, actually resists ice. Just before the door I get two more new enemies, Gremlin and Ice Lizard. One step later I also get Fell Turtle. These things can actually deal quite a bit of damage to me right now. After that fight I can move on to floor 2. On this one I go south, west at the fork, south to the bottom end of the screen, west a little, north to a chest, then west and north again to the next floor. My first fight on this floor raises Yang to level 24. The very next fight sees Cid also reach level 24. Thanks to the back attacks, my MP for both healers is almost gone already. 3 level ups in a row as Teller reaches level 26 from the next fight. The next fight introduces a new kind of flan, the Purple Bavarois. I had to look up how to pronounce this one. Before, it was easy to tell a flan's weakness based on its colour, but now we get into colours without an in-game element associated with it. But since many enemies in here have been ice elemental, I can work out it has a fire weakness. This brings Cecil to level 24 and teaches him Esuna, his final spell. Yeah, he only learns 6 spells, the final one at level 24. The chest on this floor is a monster in a box. This is a Flamehound. I'm quite a bit better off than I was last time I fought a Flamehound, so this goes much smoother. Plus Yang's claws deal over 1000 damage to it, which helps. My reward is the Flame Sword, 10 points stronger than the Sleep Sword and has an elemental advantage over most enemies on this dungeon. That's all for this floor. Floor 3 is very simple, due to not having chests to find. I just run east along the south end, north, then west along the north end to a door, ignoring the middle section entirely. A new enemy here is the Black Knight. I never realised for years that I was looking at their helmets wrong. This bit here is the visor, which should be obvious. But I was always looking at this little bit here as the face and the visor is some huge metallic underbite with the gold trim as the lips. That's the only thing that happens on this floor. I first go south and then east until I reach a branch going north to 3 doors. I take the middle one to the next floor for my first chest. Then I take the western door to my second and third chests. Then it's the eastern door to the fourth. After that it's back to the southern wall, then east and north to the next floor. First fight up here gets a new enemy type, the Soldieress. The first chest contains a Gaia Hammer for Cid. It's not only more powerful than the Mithril Hammer, it can also cast Quake when used as an item. The second chest has Hell Claws inside. These can poison enemies when hit with them. I also find in the dungeon with ice enemies, I'd been keeping Yang equipped with the least useful claw. On the way to the third chest, Yang reaches level 25. Cid also reaches level 25 from the very next fight. The third chest contains the ice resistant flame shield that goes straight to Cecil. On the way to the fourth chest, Cecil reaches level 25 too. Also during this I get my first sorceress enemy. These like to use status spells a lot, mainly slow and silence. It turns out my inventory was full, so I just used a silver apple I was saving on Cecil to free up space. The fourth chest has a Sage's Surplice, which I give to Teller. It lowers his strength a bit, but Teller's strength stat will never matter. I then move on to floor 5. This is simple. South, west to a save room, west some more, and north to the exit. Ignore those chests, they're the ones I reach from floor 4. Being able to use a tent and recover without almost emptying my MP was very appreciated. This is also the first sign of tents beginning to become obsolete, as it just barely failed to recover all of Cecil's MP. I'm still missing an enemy, so I run back and forth in front of the save room to try and get it. While trying to get to the enemy, Teller reaches level 27. Eventually I get what I was after, the Marionetteer and Marionette. If the Marionetteer ends up alone, it can summon another Marionette. This fight gets Yang to level 26. After healing and saving again, my next fight gets both Cecil and Cid to level 26 too. As I approach the door to the next floor, we get stopped. These are the Magus sisters, Sandy, Cindy and Mindy. They serve the Lord of Wind, Barbaricia, and aren't just going to let the party reach Golbez. So this is the Magus sisters' first appearance in the series, though I bet their appearance as a secret summon in Final Fantasy X is what people remember them most for. Sandy has 2591 HP, Cindy has 4599 HP, and Mindy has 2590 HP. Their main strategy is to have Sandy cast Reflect on Cindy and Mindy will bounce tier 2 spells off her to the party. This is what they call their Delta attack. Cindy also has the ability to revive the other two sisters if they're killed. That, combined with being the Reflect target, makes her the obvious first choice to kill. It helps that I got a lot of damage on her before Reflect was even cast. Once Cindy is gone, Mindy is taken down in no time. Sandy can cast Confuse, which is a bit of a problem, but not enough to keep her from dying like the others. Once they're dead, it's back to save and heal. Then we can finally move up to the next floor. This is where Golbez and Cain have been waiting. Cecil demands to know where Rosa is, but Golbez wants a crystal first. Cecil has no choice, so he hands it over. When he asks again where Rosa is, Golbez pretends like he's never heard of her. When Teller argues back and Golbez asks if he knows who he's dealing with, Teller's had enough. He pushes Cecil out of the way and fights Golbez himself. He tries some high level spells, but they all deal little damage, which Golbez mocks him over. Teller has no choice but to cast Meteor, despite the party's warnings that he won't survive. He converts his own life into the MP needed to cast it. Meteor shows its strength by dealing a full 9,999 damage and seriously injuring Golbez. The spell also knocked out Cain nearby, but Golbez survived while Teller collapses. The party gathers around Teller while Golbez takes the chance to leave. Meteor broke his control over Cain too, but Golbez doesn't care and leaves him. Cecil tries to stop Golbez but gets lightning into the wall. Golbez tries to finish him off but finds himself unable to do so and doesn't understand why. Instead he retreats, threatening to settle things next time. Cecil runs to Teller's side. Knowing he failed to kill Golbez, he realises how foolish he was to lose himself in hatred and asks the party to avenge Anna for him. And then he dies, with Sid saying his daughter is definitely proud of him and Cecil promising to avenge them both. Well, this was always going to happen, and the game makes it pretty obvious that Teller was going to go down casting Meteor on Golbez. But for me as a kid the first time, it was still a surprise. I was aware from playing the PS1 trilogy that the death of the party member was always possible due to that one. You know, when Zell has a train door shut on his balls before he can get inside and he's then dragged off to a gory end. That one. But my first experience to this game was watching bits and pieces of my grandmother playing it after I get home from school. So I missed key parts like Teller's entire story, and she was on the part with a team of Cecil, Teller, Yang and Sid for what felt like ages. So I just kind of got used to them and thought of this fort as the party. So seeing it finally change it was exciting, but Teller dying to facilitate it caught me by surprise. All we can do now is check on Cain, now he's been freed by Golbez's spell. He's very apologetic and easily forgiven by Cecil. Cecil asks where Rosa is, reminding Cain that they need to hurry. They run into the next room, where Cecil pulls Rosa free just before a huge guillotine can land on her. After her off-screen feats of strength last episode, I fully believe that Rosa could have burst out of those ropes any second and caught the guillotine with her bare hands, but decided to let Cecil put the effort in their relationship for once. Cecil and Rosa go in for what is supposed to be a kiss but looks more like a horrible fusion gone wrong. Cecil is finally done with the emotional distance and is ready to admit out loud that he loves her, but the middle-aged men just staring at them kills the mood. I mean, imagine being that close to your partner, both are your most vulnerable, and then there's this staring at you. But yeah, this is what I was on about at one point last episode. While Cecil and Rosa have been together for a while, Cecil doesn't seem to have been outwardly affectionate with her much. Only seeing her in danger and no longer being a dark knight that drains his emotions has let him move past that. Rosa sees that Cain has recovered too. Cain begs for forgiveness as not all of his actions were Golbez alone. It's been clear since the beginning of the game that Cain also has feelings for Rosa, and his actions under Golbez were also partially him subconsciously wanting her for himself. Could be something to feel sympathy for, but as we find out in the DS version, Cain has been pining after a woman who's shown no romantic interest in him for at least 15 years. He's basically a nice guy. I also want to add that a supposed quote from a non-existent guidebook claiming that Rosa once dated Cain and left him for Cecil because Cecil was of a higher status is total bullshit. I don't know if this still gets spread around, but in the late 2000s it was a common thing to see on some message boards and it caused a lot of damage to Rosa's image, and she was already not that popular to begin with. But as I said, the book people claimed had this information doesn't even exist. It's clear, especially in the DS version, that Rosa has always only had eyes for Cecil since childhood. But anyway, instead of being creeped out as would be justified, Rosa shows herself to be a better person than me and is willing to forgive him, just asking him to fight alongside them. But Cain's immediately on the I'm unforgivable train. Sid just tells him to knock off this bullshit and that they've got to escape. Even Sid knows we shouldn't be wasting screen time on Cain. Cecil finally talks him over and Rosa and Cain are back in the party. The off-screen experience the two gained raised Cain to level 28 and Rosa to level 27. I replaced Rosa's prison garb with all of Teller's old equipment. She also learned quite a few spells while she was away. Silence at level 15, Esuna at level 18, Berserk at level 20, Blink at level 23 and Confuse at level 24. Cain also rejoined with a wind spear and a full set of mithril armour. As I go to leave, we're stopped by Barbaricia, the Lord of Wind. She's disappointed in Cain for turning against Golbez's side. Cain saying he doesn't side with animals anymore really pisses her off. She believes that me losing Teller will make me easy to defeat and starts a fight. Barbarisha has 8,636 HP. Her main gimmick is to take on a tornado form. In this form, taking damage from weapons has a response to either strong physical attacks or by casting Maelstrom, an enemy exclusive spell that reduces all party members to single digit HP. She also has high defense in this form. The only way to get her out of this form is with Kane's jump command. This fight mainly exists to get people used to Kain and Rosa again, Kain for the jump and Rosa to counter Barbarisha's high damage with her healing. The other three are just here to do basic damage whenever they get the chance. She's harder to defeat than Scarmiglione and Cagnazzo, but not by much. Barbarisha reminds us that one elemental fiend still exists, but it doesn't matter as the party will never leave here alive before she dies. The Tower of Zot starts collapsing, but it's fine because Rosa has a newly learned teleport spell to take everyone back to Cecil's room in Baron. Next comes the question of what they do now, since Golbez has all 4 crystals. When Kain says that isn't true because he only has 4, Cid realises that the legend of an underworld with its own set of 4 crystals must be true. The underworld has its own dark crystals while the 4 on the surface are the light crystals. Kain once heard Golbez say that when all 8 crystals are gathered, the path to the moon will open. Kain doesn't know what it means, but he does have the Magma Stone, the key to the underworld. However, none of them have any idea where to use it. Cid says they'll just have to fly around the world until they find it. When it's pointed out that they left the Enterprise at the Tower of Zot, Cid says it has an autopilot and will have returned to Baron by now. Before resting for the night, Cecil takes a second to wonder why Golbez didn't kill him when he had the chance. Before I leave, I check out the basement of the castle's east tower. Cecil finds the spirit of the real King of Baron. He says to return to him after I visited the Fear March, whatever that is. Before I can continue the plot, I can visit Edward in his hospital bed and let him know that Teller's dead. I'm sure letting him know of those who die while he's physically incapable of helping should lift his spirits. Well, after my world tour last episode, there's only one place that hinted at the existence of an underworld, and that's Agarth. I run to the well in the middle of town and throw the magma rock down it. We then get the DS cutscene of the mountains north of town exploding open. You'd think this happening so close to the town would have some consequences, but no. Literally no one in town comments on it. Only thing to do now is take the Enterprise down the hole we blew open. This definitely is an underworld, complete with oceans of magma instead of water. We don't get to look around for long before the Enterprise gets caught in the middle of the battle between the Red Wings and some tanks. Cid tries to force his way out, but the Enterprise takes too much cannon fire and is downed. Cue another DS cutscene. Cecil is the last one to come to after the crash. Everyone's alright, but the Enterprise can't fly anymore, leaving the only option to get off and look around. We don't have to look very far though because we crashed right next to a castle. But first we got some new enemies to fight down here. First we have the Magma Tortoise. Since it's a very hot climate and all these creatures live near magma, ice elemental damage is their big weakness. Next we have our third Goblin variant, Goblin Captain. I also gave Kain the Blood Spear for some reason even though I don't like it. I completely forgot. With those 2 enemies added to my bestiary, I can enter the castle. This is the Dwarven Castle. This is not the first game in the series to have dwarves, but I find them the most memorable in this game. By this point, their greeting is set in stone as Lally Ho. It's always weird to go back to the PS1 version where they have it as the Rally Ho from FF9. They tell me to see King Jot and I go inside. In this first room is the dwarf princess, Luca, who's looking for her dolls. I'm not allowed through the eastern exit, so I take the western one. It leads to a combined inn and item shop. Next to the counter I find 5,000 gil in a pot. The other 2 exits in here are blocked off, so my only other choice is to go back to the previous room and north to the throne room to meet King Jot. He introduces himself and asks why we're here. Cecil says that they're here for the Dark Crystals. Jot already knows Golbez is after them, but can tell that the party isn't on his side. 2 of the Dark Crystals have already been taken, so only 2 more are left. One of them is safe in this castle, since their tanks fought off the Red Wings. But the tanks took a beating and he asks if the airship can help them. Cid says it can, but the Enterprise not only needs repairing, which Jot says they will help with, but it wouldn't withstand the heat of the underworld either. So he'd have to make temporary fixes, then fly to the surface to coat it in mithril to make it more heat resistant. Cid says he'll be back before we know it and leaves the party. Cecil asks where the crystal is, and Jot says it's behind the throne room safe. But Yang senses something spying on them, and we see what looks like a child jumping around behind the throne. No one else can sense it, but Jot lets the party inside the crystal chamber just to be sure. The door locks behind them. The source of Yang's concern turns out to be Luca's missing dolls. The boys are Kalka and the girls are Brina. Golbez got desperate enough to get to the crystal that he took control of the child's toys. We have 3 Kalka and 3 Brina to fight. Brina don't have much HP, but if you don't do things right you can end up not killing one of each, so I make sure to get that done first. Kalka have much more HP than Brina though, so those ones take a few hits to kill. It also takes a bit longer because Kain's Blood Spear is worthless and refuses to stop missing. After I kill all the Brinas, the remaining dolls unite to form Kalka Brina. This has 5,315 HP, and if not killed after a certain amount of time, will split apart into 6 more dolls again. Right now my fight options are limited, I just have physical attacks and no offensive magic, so it's just a case of beating it down with attack and jump, having Rosa heal every turn. Having a better healer than Tellah is much appreciated since this thing can deal over 800 damage to Cecil. Defeating it has Cecil and Yang reach level 27 and Kain reach level 29. The dolls are defeated, but they've already reported this location to Golbez, who shows up. He's impressed we even managed to get here. He decides he's going to tell us what he wants the crystals for. All the crystals together can reactivate the Tower of Babel, which leads to the moon, which is supposed to possess power beyond comprehension. This time he decides to finish us off for good himself. Golbez has 23,001 HP and a weakness to the fire and holy elements. None of my attacks connect and he starts by casting Binding Cold, which paralyses the entire party. He follows this up by summoning his own personal Shadow Dragon. He uses Black Fang, which instantly KOs Yang, Rosa and Cid. But just as Golbez is prepared to finish Cecil, he disappears and a Mist Dragon appears, using Radiant Breath. This kills the Shadow Dragon. Golbez cannot believe it. Cecil is healed of his paralysis from someone with a familiar voice. It's Rydia, who isn't dead, but she looks different. First step is to start reviving and healing my party. Golbez isn't just going to stand by and let me do that though, he still has high level spells he can cast on me. Rydia on the other hand has lost her white magic command, but gained 5 new summons, one of them being her mother's Mist Dragon. The useful one for this fight is Ifrit, hitting that fire weakness, but for some reason I keep summoning Titan instead. Despite his listed HP amount, he's defeated after taking 9,999 damage. Rydia also levels up from this fight and Rosa reaches level 28. First time I saw this as a kid, they were awesome. I said I first saw this game during the Antlion Cave, so the party of Cecil, Edward and Rydia kind of imprinted on me. Then I found out you lose your entire party and I get to watch them slowly return. But because of how bad we were at these games back then, it would take us ages to progress even the slightest bit, so the question of when Rydia would eventually reappear was always on the mind, because none of us believed she was dead, but we also never expected her to show up at this moment. While Golbez lies defeated, everyone gathers around Rydia to ask what happened to her. When Leviathan swallowed her, she was taken to the Fey March, the land of the Eidolons. She lost the use of her white magic but grew as a summoner. Time also flows faster in the Fey March, which is why she's aged 10 years. The Queen of the Fey March told her there's a great force secretly at work before she rejoins the party, so there's more than Golbez to worry about it seems. But that doesn't mean Golbez is done. He reduces himself to just a hand, slowly crawls up to the crystal, grabs it and leaves while the party just stands there staring and lets it happen. Good job. I guess maybe leave that part out when relaying what happened to Jot. The final crystal is in the sealed cave to the southwest, and Golbez is already heading there. But he can't enter it without the key. While he's away wasting his time, we're going to sneak into the Tower of Babel and retrieve the other 7 crystals. The dwarves will distract Golbez's forces with their tanks. There's an exit in the castle basement. This is important, because once I forgot this, left through the front of the castle, and then couldn't find the tower. Rydia is now level 27. Aside from gaining the Eidolons Mist Dragon, Shiva, Titan, Rama and Ifrit, she also learned more black magic. Pig at level 20, Bio at level 26, and Fyra, Blizzara and Thundara automatically when returning as an adult. Now that I have access to the entire castle, I can now take that eastern exit from the first floor. This leads to the weapon and armour shops. I equip Rydia with a mithril knife and wizard's hat first so I can see what would help her. I buy her a Sage's Meter and a Sage's Surplice. I also buy 3 rune armlets for Rydia, Rosa and Yang. No weapons though, none of them were an upgrade. Between the 2 shops there's a secret exit to the Lally-Ho pub. There's the one dancer in here that dances to the Fat Chocobo theme. Well, it's less that he's a dancer and more he's just drunk. In the bottom right corner of this room is another hidden passage to the developer's office. Every NPC in here is one of the developers on this game, all with their own little message for the player, or just some in-jokes we wouldn't understand. I won't go into too much detail here or it will get tedious, so I will point out some standouts. There's a random encounter with battle system designer Akihiko Matsui. He'll cast Libra on a party member, mock their stats, cast it on himself which reveals his own pitiful stats and many weaknesses. These guys don't get added to the bestiary by the way. There's Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi wandering around as Red Chocobo. There's a music room with composer Nobuo Uematsu in the form of the naming way. In the break room there's Takashi Tokita as a black mage. He wrote this game's story, then highlighted it and selected copy and paste when he came back to write the sequel. He'll hit on Rosa and Rydia and invite himself into the party, but he won't actually come with us. Inspecting the bookshelf here gets us a lustful Lally-Ho, which even has its own unique fanfare when obtained. Described as one of Cecil's favourites. But if dwarves weren't known about on the surface until just now, how was dwarf porn already one of Cecil's favourite magazines? What's going on there? What I like is that when you use it, Cecil looks left and right to make sure no one else sees, and the entire party stood right with him at all times anyway. Or is this a special group looking at porn that outsiders aren't allowed in? That's about it for this place. These kind of Easter eggs are always cute and I wish we could see more of them today. You heard me Square. FF7 Remake Part 2. Bring back the developer office. Back to the shops, I take some more stairs to the east into the Eastern Tower. First floor has a chest with a dwarven axe inside. Both Cecil and Kane can equip this, but it's not as good as either of their current best weapons. Second floor has a load of pots, but only one contains a Bacchus's wine, the rest are empty. Third floor is me walking through the walls to open chests. An ether, power armlet which goes on Yang, elixir and silver hourglass. Back on the first floor of a tower, I can exit out of the south to end up at the top of the castle where I can enter the western tower. First floor has nothing, so I go up. Another room full of pots with just one Bacchus's wine to find. The third floor has me travelling inside and outside the walls between rooms to form more chests. A high potion, elixir, ether and black belgi. That last one goes straight to Yang. Back to the inn, I take the stairs next to the innkeeper. There's a door to an infirmary down here, but there isn't anything to do in here yet. There's a spot to summon a fat chocobo and 3 pots with Giselle greens next to it. In the middle of the room, a dwarf will open the door to the second basement. Down here there are 3 chests containing 3 cottages. Next floor down is a dwarven base. One dwarf tells me that the strongest archfiend, Rubicante, is at the Tower of Babel. Just before the exit there's a healing pot which makes this a good grinding place. Leaving the cave puts me on the other end of the mountain next to the castle. The only new enemy I fight here is an armadillo, pallet swap of the Ironback. I head west from the cave exit until I can't go west any further. At that point I start going north. I somehow make it up through this long stretch north without a single encounter. The tanks come into view, then we learn that the Tower of Babel is a huge tower coming out of the ground near Eblan Castle. As we get closer, tank fire interrupts our every step until I eventually make it inside. So, Tower of Babel, or Bab-Il on SNES and PS1, and Babel on GBA. We start on basement 13. I head north to the fork, then west to grab the first 2 chests, east to grab the third, and then north to B12. Being the lair of the Fire Fiend, this place has many fire monsters. The first chest has ice arrows inside, as does the second. The third chest has an ether inside. A new enemy I face on this floor is the next level up from Marionette, the Evil Doll. That's all, and B12 is next. For this one, the first chest is right next to the entrance. I head south to a door to the second chest, northeast to another door to the third, and then northwest to the door to B11. The first chest has a green berry inside. I give it to Yang. The second chest is a monster in a box. This is a new enemy, Security Eye. When hit, it calls a monster. In this case, the Chimera is also new. You could also use these for grinding. It only summons a monster if attacked when there are no other monsters present. So you could hit it with someone weak like Rosa or Rydia for minimal damage and keep killing all the monsters it calls in. Cecil reaches level 28 from this fight and I win the Ice Brand, an ice elemental sword for him that's 10 points stronger than the Flame Sword. The third chest is also a monster in a box. It's another Security Eye, but this one calls a Stone Golem. Cecil's Ice Brand utterly destroys these, as does Yang's weapons, so I use the grinding method I mentioned for the last one and kill a few of them. Kane reaches level 30 and Yang reaches level 28. I win an Ice Lance to replace the worthless Blood Lance and a Siren. Siren was one of the Eye's item drops, and these will be very useful in a few episodes' time. Now it's time for B11. West of the entrance is the first chest, then south to a door to an isolated part of B10 with 2 chests. Then south to the 4th chest, then to the northeast corner and south to the 5th chest. Then we go all the way north, west, south and east to the door to the main section of B10. The first chest has some cat claws inside. These can inflict sleep on an enemy. But I don't want to give up the ice damage in this place, and I love the fairy claws for the insane damage they do to giants, so I leave it for now. The second chest is a killer bow, the third chest is an Antarctic wind, 4th chest is a phoenix down, and the 5th chest has a high potion. On the way to the next floor, Rydia reaches level 28. Now for B10. Ignore those 2 chests in the corner, those are the ones reached from B11. First I go west into the save room, then north, east across the bridge and through the door to my first chest. Then I forget about the other chests I can reach here and move west across the bridge to the door to B9. I'll get it later. Right in front of the first chest, Rosa reaches level 29 and learns Shell. The first chest is a monster in a box. It's another Security Eye. This one gives me a new enemy, the Naga, a stronger version of the Cave Naga. Winning this fight gets me an ice shield that reduces fire damage. I give it to Cecil. For this floor, I go all the way south, then east and take the north to my first chest, then go back and keep going east, ignoring this door. At the end I go north and take the first east and then south to my second chest. Then it's north some more to the door to B8. On this floor I get a new flan, the White Moose. They're weak against ice magic, but 6 of these take forever to kill as they all get their attacks in first. The first chest is an Arctic Wind, which casts Blizzara when used, not to be confused with the Antarctic Wind that casts Blizzard. I get no other fights and the second chest is a high potion, B8 next. This is just a walk west to a door. On this floor Cecil reaches level 29. That's it. As for B7, here I go east to a save room, then south to a chest, then east and north to the next floor. The chest is a dry ether. Yang reaches level 29 here. But before I move on to B6, the guide I'm using says I'm still missing some enemies. This will take a while. Kane reaches level 31 while trying to fight them. The next fight after that gets me one of those enemies, the Medusa. A couple more fights later, Rydia reaches level 29 and Rosa reaches level 30, learning Kiraga and Mini. Cecil reaches level 30, as does Yang a couple minutes later, followed shortly by Kain reaches level 32. Eventually I start checking out the previous floors, thinking maybe the missing enemies will be more likely there. Rydia reaches level 30 on the way. In the next fight, Rosa reaches level 31 and learns Dispel. Back on B13, Cecil reaches level 31. Yang reaches it too a few fights later. Soon I start heading back up. Kain reaches level 33. Soon after, Cecil and Rosa reach level 32 from the same fight, and Rydia reaches level 31 from the very next fight. After about 25 minutes, I finally get a mystery egg. These hatch into another enemy after one hit, but I don't know what counts as a kill on the egg, so I summon Ifrit to deal enough damage to kill the egg itself. A few minutes later, Yang reaches level 32. 4 minutes later, Kain reaches level 34. Then while running back to the save room, I finally get the last enemy I was after, the Flame Knight. I have no idea why this enemy took over half an hour to appear. It's not even uncommon. At this point I moved on to using cottagers to heal at save points, as tents just aren't doing enough anymore. After saving, Cecil reaches level 33. Rosa also reaches level 33 a couple fights later and learns Haste. I can now finally move on to B6. I just have to go southwest and north to these guys here. When I reach them, it's some scientist guy seeing off Rubicante. Rubicante mentions he was the one who attacked Eblan and wiped out his ninjas before he leaves. The guy starts jumping around, glad to be in charge since Golbez and Rubicante are away. Rydia asks what's up with him and gives away their presence. None of the party feel threatened by Dr. Luge, but he states he's the brains of Golbez's operation and he can protect the tower himself. Kain mocks him further and he attacks with one of his creations. He fights us with his robot, Barnabas. When Barnabas is commanded to attack, he hits Luge instead. Luge has 4,936 HP while Barnabas has 4,832 HP. This fight can go one of two ways depending on which one you kill first. Going for Barnabas adds an extra enemy that can be added to my bestiary, so I deal with him first. It takes no time at all, as I have 3 party members whose attacks deal close to or over 1000 damage. Once Barnabas is killed, Luge takes direct control of him and pilots him himself. Barnabas Z has 4,518 HP, has some strong physical attacks but he doesn't last long as Luge mistakenly presses Barnabas' self-destruct button and takes himself out. Rydia reaches level 32 and learns Osmos. That's not the end of Luge though, as he transforms into his next form. He has 6600 HP and no weaknesses. He counters all attacks with Sleeping Gas, which targets a single character. He can also inflict poison on the entire party with Poison Gas. The Sleeping Gas gets very annoying very quickly with its animation dragging out the fight. He also has a weak beam attack and a much stronger laser that deals over 1000 damage. There's also his weak flamethrower that targets the entire party. Rydia does most of the damage summoning Ifrit as Luge never targets her with Sleeping Gas. Eventually I bring him down and get Luge's key. Luge says it's too late. The Tower of Babel connects the Underworld and Overworld and Rubicante has already taken the crystals to the Overworld. He also has cannons aimed at the dwarves ready to blow them away. There's an issue with that fight though. Because I killed Barnabas first, Luge's Doctor form wasn't added to the bestiary. This is something they only added in this version. On the GBA, killing Barnabas first ensured you get all 4 entries from this fight. But there is something I can do about it. But first I look at my item checklist and finally realised I missed that chest back on B10 and go back to get it. The second chest on that floor is another security eye that got me ice armour. I create a separate save file. This is what will become my main file from now on. I reset the game and load the file from before the Luge fight. I kill him first this time. This skips the Barnabas Z fight as Barnabas realises that with Luge gone, he can't have more oil and he self-destructs. You still have to do the second Luge fight though. I then save the first file. It turns out that in this version, the bestiary is shared between all save files, so the Doctor's kill gets added to my main file's bestiary too. Bit of a pain really, especially since it was already so much simpler on GBA. Now for those cannons. There was a door on B9 I ignored because I couldn't open it, so that's where I'm headed. I use Luge's key on the door and go in. We have 3 monsters preparing the cannons to kill the dwarves before Cecil calls them cowards to get their attention. They try taking me on, but it's just 3 goblin captains that all die in a single hit. But before they die, they destroy the super cannon's control console, preventing it from being shut down. I remember first seeing this part. I remember seeing Yang walk out of Cecil and just thinking, wait what? Oh no. The party refuse to leave Yang as he asks, so Yang smacks them all flying out of the room. Yang tells Cecil and the others how much he enjoyed travelling with them and to tell his wife that he'll always be with her before we see the explosion. Yang took the fire from the super cannon alone and it was enough to block it and prevent any dwarf deaths. Now that's the way to go out. When I was a kid, this one hit me. Yang had been in the party longer than anyone else other than Cecil at this point, so I definitely got used to him always being there. It helps that he's always been useful gameplay wise as well. Plus, it comes out of nowhere. When we confront Golbez at the Tower of Zot, you can guess that Teller may die, but when you're just fighting 3 weak enemies, you have no idea that your physically strongest party member is going to get blown the fuck up. But at least it was in a cool way. It didn't do what an earlier game did and have its coolest character die opening a door in a fancy way. Well, having failed to recover a single crystal and lost Yang, all we can do is leave the way we came. I mean, all we accomplished here is killing a scientist. As soon as we reach the bridge leading to the front door, we hear Golbez's voice. He starts making the bridge sink into the lava, but luckily for the party, Sid shows up with the Enterprise and catches them. He asks where Yang is, but Rydia's cry and gives it away. We then get the introductions between them. But it doesn't last long as Sid was in the middle of a chase with the Red Wing ship. Sid doesn't know if he can outrun it either, since the Red Wings have since been upgraded. Sid can't outrun and the Enterprise's engine can't take it, so he has Cecil take the wheel. Once they reach the surface, Sid intends to close the mountain with a bomb to trap the ship down there. He mentions how he really wanted to see the children Cecil and Rosa would have, but he can't let Yang pass on alone. He says to go see his workers in Baron after this. Everyone tries to get him to stop, but it doesn't work. So Sid ensures he is the series' best Sid by jumping off an airship miles in the air while in a high-speed chase with a ship with cannons right above lava with a bomb in his hand, laughing all the way as he explodes. I'd like to see that giant yellow crayon from FF6 pull that off. We get another DS cutscene of the path to the underworld being closed off by the explosion. Cecil and the others aren't quite as impressed by Sid's death as I am. Adding Yang and Sid to the total, they've lost 5 allies now. All Cecil can say is that they should head to Baron. First I head to Troya to let Edward know that Yang is dead too. Make him feel even more useless. That is what you do when visiting a friend in the hospital, right? I also visit Sheila, but she refuses to believe that Yang could be dead. Now it's time to visit Baron. I talked to Sid's workers near the Eastern Tower. They'd been prepared for Cecil's arrival as Sid had told them to attach a hook to the Enterprise when they returned. Once it's done, they say that the hook can grab the hovercraft. I'm surprised Sid knew about that since he was never in the party while we used it. Cecil tries to tell them about Sid, but they just interrupt and say they know he's a handful and that they doubt he'll ever die. First time going through the game, I never expected the hovercraft would get used again after Mount Hobbs. I thought it would go the way of the buggy from FF7, abandoned and replaced with vehicles that did everything it could do and more. But no, the hovercraft's ability to travel over shallow water still has use. I take the hovercraft to Erblan Castle and ride it across to this cave entrance I couldn't get to with the airship. So, Cave of Erblan B1. I miss these hidden passages next to the entrance and go all the way south, east, north and east again to the first chest. From there I go north and then down some stairs into the water, up the waterfall and through the hidden passage to the second chest. Then it's east through another hidden passage to the third. After that I backtrack to the southwest corner and take the stairs there. We can tell how far ahead I was supposed to be when I did the castle, as only now am I fighting enemies that appeared in those chests. The first chest contains a vampire fight. I get my first variant of those bat pricks this episode with the blood bat. Kane reaches level 35 from this fight. The second chest contains a shuriken, something none of my party can use. The third chest contains a remedy. On the way to the exit, Cecil reaches level 34. I go down into B2, where there are no monsters, but there are people and a few doors to other rooms. The first one is an inn and item shop. Erblan had a few survivors, who all hid away in this cave. The second door is a weapon and armour shop. I buy Kane some ice armour and finally remember to equip Cecil the one I got in the tower. I also got Rydia a black robe, but gave her Yang's or black belt gi instead. From the weapon shop I buy a boomerang for later. The third door leads to a room with the remaining survivors. The very first pot in here contains a potion. While talking to everyone we found that they lost their king and queen. The prince's advisor says that the prince went off to the Tower of Babel to avenge his parents. There's also a potion in a pot at the other end of the room. The only thing left is to take the stairs to B3. I can't do the entire floor at once here. The first chest is right next to the entrance. Then I go north to the second chest next to the exit. There's a hidden passage south to a third chest. Once I grab that, I take those stairs. The first chest has an ether, the second has a tent. Next to it a dead ninja saying the prince went on alone. The third chest has a high potion. These stairs take me to the path to Tower of Babel. Once again I can't do it all at once. I first head northeast to my first chest, then directly south to the exit, taking a quick detour east through a hidden passage to my second chest. In here Rosa reaches level 34. Rydia reaches level 33 from the next fight. The first chest contains a bomb core, which casts fire when used. The second contains a shuriken. The stairs I take here bring me back to the previous screen. I start by opening the 3 chests right in front of me, then taking the hidden passage east of the entrance to 2 more chests. Then from the entrance I go south to the end of the room, I go west to my 6th chest, then east to 3 more. From those last 3 chests I go all the way north back to the next screen. The first 3 chests are a high potion, cottage and another high potion. The 4th and 5th chests are both elixirs. My 6th chest has a spider silk. The 7th, 8th and 9th chests are a spider silk and 2 phoenix downs. Back to this screen again. Here I go east into a save room, then west and north to my first chest. Back to the entrance I go north all the way, then west through a hidden passage for my second chest before I take the exit. I just want to add that being ambushed by bats is still the most painful thing. Over a minute to deal with weak enemies because their attacks just slow everything down. I also get ambushed by them more than any other enemy. Cecil reaches level 35 in this room, followed by Cain at level 36 thanks to a ridiculous random encounter rate. The first chest here has a gold needle. I also remember the hidden passage in the save room that leads to a chest with a monster in a box. Last episode I might shit myself at this, but they're not much of a threat anymore. They drop a blood sword. Like the blood lance, this will heal Cecil by whatever damage he deals to the enemy. But with all the enemies here and coming up that are weak against ice, the ice brand is just better. Before I can reach that final chest I have some story to deal with. The Prince of Ebla is confronting Rubicante. He gives his name as Edge, but Rubicante trolls him a bit by pretending not to remember the name of his country. We get to an automated fight where we learn that Edge is a fucking idiot. It is known that Rubicante is the Fire Lord, so Edge goes and casts a flame technique on him. Surprise, it doesn't work. Rubicante counters with his own Inferno, which just wipes him out. No sympathy, that was a punishment for stupidity. Rubicante is somehow impressed by Edge's pitiful showing and encourages him to become stronger for their next meeting. After he leaves, the party gather around Edge and Cecil asks if he's okay. He's adamant on facing Rubicante alone, telling the others to stay out of it once they mention they're after him too. He tells them he's a prince of ninjas and doesn't need help, but Rydia tells him to stop it and starts crying. With Teller, Young and Sid dead, she snubs the twins but to be fair she never met them, she's tired of watching people die. The crying actually gets to Edge a little. Cecil reminds Edge that Rubicante is the strongest of the Archfiends and that they must recover the crystals. Edge gives in and allows the others to join him, while flirting with Rydia at the same time. Rosa heals him and he starts with her too, leaving Rydia to think that maybe they'd be better without him. Edge then joins the party. He starts at level 25. By this point later in the game it gets harder to inform characters through their levels. Like, I wasn't supposed to end up here 10 levels above him, I don't think, but the longer the game gets, the less likely you are to be at the developer's expected level. Edge can equip katanas, daggers, boomerangs and claws, although he doesn't use them as well as Yang, but like Yang, he's ambidextrous and can hold 2 weapons. The final chest is a dry ether, and I move on back into the Tower of Babel. I start on B1. Heading north will have Edge use his ninja skills to sneak through the wall. From here, a little northwest is the first chest. From there I go all the way east, then south and east past the door to go north to the second chest. I then return to the door to go through it. 2 new enemies in the first fight, a Sorcerer and Ghost Knight. When left alone, the Sorcerer will summon the Green Dragon, quite a strong enemy for this point. Edge has 3 abilities. First is Steal, it steals items from enemies. Will only come in useful in one case, but it will be a big one. Second is Throw, he can throw old weapons and other exclusive items like the Shuriken. I never use this because if I don't want to keep an item, I'd rather sell it. Then there's Ninjutsu, it's a very limited pool of just 6 unique spells. Right now he just starts with Flame, the one he used on Rubicante like a dumbass. Nothing Edge does is particularly useful to me. He's not as good a beater as Cecil or even Cain, his dual wielding doesn't lead to combinations with insane damage like Yang, and his spells aren't as useful as Rydia's. And Steal is only useful to me for this playthrough for the perfect save. Add to that his arrogant personality, and I wonder why Yang and Sid had to blow up to facilitate this guy. Fuck Edge. One last observation. I don't know how many other people see this, but when I look at Edge's original battle sprite from previous versions, I just see Professor Oak from Pokemon dressed as a ninja. It's the combination of the eyes and hairstyle. Rosa reaches level 35 from this fight and learns Float. The first chest in here gets me a unicorn horn. Next fight after this has Rydia reached level 34. The second chest has a silver hourglass. I then move on to B2. This is a very simple room. I go north along the east wall, and then west, stopping halfway to go south for a chest. Then when I hit the west wall, I go south to the next door. On the way to the chest, Edge reaches level 26. The chest is a monster in a box. It's 4 mad ogres, and I get the luck of having a preemptive strike too. But if only Yang was here, he'd kill each of them with a single hit. My reward for this fight is the Ogre Killer. It's an axe that, as the name implies, deal extra damage to ogres. I give it to Cecil since I've been fighting a lot of these. Also on this floor I get a new bomb variant, the Bloon. The Ogre Killer is so good that it deals 3000 damage to a mad ogre. Less than what Yang would have done, but still good. Cecil also reaches level 36 from this fight. Now for B3, I only visit a section of the room. I run south and east past the door to grab the chest, then backtrack to the door. From my next fight, Cain reaches level 37 and Edge reaches level 27, learning Shadowbind. It inflicts paralyze on an enemy, but I'm not sure if I've ever used it in my life. The chest contains a Lilith's Kiss and it's off to B4. Here I go east and north all the way, then west and south to the one chest here, then west and north to the door. The chest contains Nashura, a katana that replaces one of the kunai he joins equipped with. One fight later, Rosa reaches level 36 and learns Reflect. The door takes me back to B3. This is a quick one. North, east, south, east to a save room and the next floor. There's this one glowing orb I inspect every playthrough expecting it to do something, but it never does. But apart from that, I go through the floor without a single battle. I'm missing some enemies, so I hang out by the save room to try find them. During this, Rydia reaches level 35. A minute later, Edge reaches level 28. 7 minutes later, Cecil reaches level 37. 2 minutes after that, Edge reaches level 29. A minute later, Kain reaches level 38. 4 minutes later, Rosa reaches level 37. At this point I realise I've been looking in the wrong area anyway and keep moving on. You'd think I'd know this since I already filled the bestiary on the GBA in the Doom playthrough. B4 again is just a few steps left to another door. I'm not drawing a map of that. As to B5, I just go south of the wall, to the west and north of the chest, then back to the middle and north of the door. I get a new enemy on this floor. It's a Storm Anima, a new variant of the Leshy. A few fights later, Rydia reaches level 36 and learns Drain. The one chest on this floor contains a massive 82,000 gil. Before I approach the middle of this room, I swap Cecil back over to the Icebrand. As I approach the middle, the fought dead King and Queen of Eblan appear, asking Edge to come with them. When he asks where, they say to hell. The King and Queen of Eblan have too much HP to kill. The majority of this fight is Edge begging his parents to come to their senses while they cast some weak spells. Eventually they do. They tell Edge they are no longer human and don't belong here. They apologise for having to leave, saying Eblan is in good hands. I've seen Edge fight alone, it fucking is not. Edge begs him not to go, but the king kills himself. He then tries again with his mother, but she kills herself too. Rubicante appears, disgusted with what Lugae has done. Edge squares up to Rubicante, who tells him it was Lugae who turned his parents into monsters and that he is genuinely sorry for what happened. Rubicante is the honourable one who likes to fight fairly. Edge throws it back in his face, which has Rubicante tell him that anger never bears true strength. Edge is determined to prove him wrong and through sheer anger learns the ninjutsu skills Flood and Blitz. Rubicante says it doesn't matter, as not even ice can get through his cloak of flame. Wanting it to be a fair fight, Rubicante heals me first. Rubicante has 34,000 HP and a weakness to ice while absorbing fire, but while he's shielding himself behind his cloak, he is healed by all elements. This is what makes Rubicante the most challenging Archfiend. You may think you have Shiva or a Blizzaga ready for him, but then he puts up the cloak at the last second. He counters the attack command with a whole party firer and has his Inferno spell that deals more damage than most of the party can survive right now. Cecil and Kain attack and jump respectively, with their ice weapons dealing thousands of damage. I have Edge cast Flood and Rydia summon Shiva whenever he doesn't have the cloak up. If Rubicante ever takes damage from ice magic, he will then cast Blizzara on himself for some reason for even more damage, and I just have Rosa heal every turn. Admittedly I am overleveled at this point, but he ends up being no challenge and I bring him down. Fittingly, Edge reaches level 30 from this fight. Rubicante is impressed by the concept of the weak becoming strong when gathering together, and that's it, all 4 of them are dead. Edge tells his parents they can now rest in peace. The Seneschal has also shown up with some soldiers to help fight Rubicante. Edge tells them it's already over and asks the party who Golbez is, to which again gives the most abridged description possible that anyone not in the know would have many questions about. Edge decides to stay with the party despite the Seneschal's protests. He tells the party to look after Edge and leaves. We go through the door here and it's the Crystal Chamber. It took 2 attempts but we got there. Except no, because there's a trapdoor that drops me down a few floors. We failed again. We landed all the way back on B7 where we fought Lugae, but a different area. All we can do is keep going down. There's a chest in the north and I take the door in the south. The chest contains a high potion. Back on B8 I just walk north to the next door. I get a Lamia Matriarch, one of the new enemies I was trying to find higher up, not knowing it wasn't found up there. These usually come grouped with mystery eggs that all hatch into regular Lamias. That's all when I revisit B9. I go southwest all the way to the middle of the room, then I go east some more and north to a chest. I backtrack and go west all the way and north to another door. Cecil reaches level 38 on this floor. The chest contains a high potion and I hang out by the exit waiting on one more new monster. A few fights later, Kain reaches level 39 and Edge reaches level 31 in the same fight. 3 minutes later, Rosa reaches level 38 and learns Curaja. Here's an issue though. There are no save rooms in this section of the tower. If I run out of resources, my last save was before the Rubicante fight. 6 minutes after Rosa's level up, Rydia reaches level 37. It takes me about 15 minutes to get a fight with a Mithril Golem. They're strong, but Cecil's Ogre Killer destroys them. With that I can finally go through the door. In this room we find an enemy airship. Edge says they can escape with it, correctly brushing off Rydia's concerns about it being owned by the enemy with "who cares?". Edge decides to name the airship Falcon and we take off. So we have an airship in the underworld again. The problem is that it isn't protected from heat, so I can't fly over magma. This leaves me with no other options to travel to other than the Dwarven Castle. I head straight for the throne room. Jot asks if we were able to get the crystals back and finds out we failed. He says that Golbez is trying to get into the sealed cave by force and that eventually he'll get through, so he wants us to get the crystal before he does. He asks Luca to lend us her necklace. The necklace is also the key to the sealed cave. The necklace belonged to Luca's long dead mother. So we have the key to the sealed cave, but we still can't fly to it yet. One woman in the hallway says that after the path to the otherworld collapsed, she helped out an old kook in trouble and took him to the infirmary. Could it be? It is. Of course exploding miles in the air above an ocean of magma wouldn't be enough to kill Cid. That's nowhere near enough. Even when Kain asks how, he just laughs it off. Even when Edge asks who this geezer is, he nearly gets fucking annihilated by best Cid before Rydia makes Edge back off, and Cid realises she has him whipped. The pie lists the current situation and the issue with the airship, so Cid does the only thing that can be done. He ignores that he's exploded and gets out of bed, even dragging his doctors and nurses to come help him remodel the Falcon. We get to watch them work on the Falcon, even dragging Edge out and making him be useful too. We cut back to arresting Cid telling us we can fly over anything now. After being thanked by Rosa, Cid gives no response. The game even plays the intro to Crying Sorrow, but he's just sleeping. We let him rest and get going. Well, now I have access to the entire underworld. The sealed cave can wait, I have other things to check out. South of the castle is a lone house. This is Kokol's forge. I talked to one of Kokol's apprentices who says Kokol lost his spark and just stays in bed all day. I take a remedy from a pot and go upstairs. I take a Soma drop from the bookshelf here. This will be the bane of my life at a certain point. Soma drops increase a character's maximum MP by 10. There are very few found as treasure, leaving the only way to max out every character's MP to be farming many incredibly rare drops. But as for this one, Kain has 0 MP and nothing that uses it anyway, so it would be a waste. Cecil and Edge's magic isn't that important, so that just leaves deciding between Rosa and Rydia. The solution is obvious. Hey, that just means when it comes to maxing Kain's MP later, I'll only need to grind out 99 Soma drops. As for Kokol, he refuses to forge another sword again until he finds the legendary ore, Adamantite. That's all I can do, so I leave. The underworld isn't a wraparound map like the overworld, it's surrounded by a mountain wall on every side. At this point I check the bestiary, see how I'm doing. I'm at 31% of monsters slain. I hang around outside the forge to fight some new monsters. First is the Hellflapper. Been a long while since we've seen this enemy type. Next fight gets 2 more new variants of enemies I haven't seen in a while, Tunneler and Bloodflower. Edge reaches level 32 here. Next is the Caterpillar. I haven't seen this enemy type since all the way back in Mist Cave I think. These are a pain because they respond to every attack command with slow. Those are all the enemies for this area, so I move on. West of the forge is a town surrounded by a mountain. This is Tomra. One dwarf here says that an island to the north has a path to the Fae March. That's important. Instead of Lally-ho, the greeting in Tomra is Howdy-ho. Just a little thing to give the only other dwarf settlement more life. I like it. In the northwest corner of town is a house with some chests inside, though most have been emptied. Zeus's Wrath, Bomb Fragment, Antarctic Wind from a pot, Bestiary from a pot, Dry Ether and 2000 gil. Bestiaries cast Libra when used in battle. This place's armour shop sells expensive diamond armour. I buy 2 diamond shields for Cecil and Kain, 2 diamond helms, 2 diamond armour, 2 diamond gloves and 3 diamond armlets for Rydia, Rosa and Edge. It devastates my bank account. After selling off some stuff, from the weapon shop I buy Edge a second Ashura and get Rydia a chain whip. In the inn, someone says that sylphs can be found in the cave to the north. That's all to do in this place, it's very easily missed. My next location is in the middle west of the underworld. Against the wall there's this tiny 3-tile tall island I can walk on that has some unique enemies. And in my first fight here I get 2 of them, Gloomwing and Hornworm. Hornworm are also little shits for using slow after every attack. We're finally getting 2000 plus HP enemies as the standard now. From this fight Cecil reaches level 39. The next fight, oh fuck how do you say this? The next fight gives me Alrauna. I think this is my first Spider-Woman enemy. A few minutes later I get a Medusa variant, the Gorgon. 3 minutes later Kain reaches level 40. What is it with underworld locations keeping one enemy from me for ages? 5 minutes later Edge reaches level 33 and learns Smoke and Rosa reaches level 39 in the same fight. Smoke causes me to instantly flee from battle. I never use this, I just run normally. 8 minutes later, Rydia reaches level 38. 2 minutes later, and after about 20 minutes altogether, I finally get a monster egg that hatches into a Nagaraja. All that time for an enemy that died in one hit, but I'm still not done. Soon after, Cecil reaches level 40. Eventually I find out I can get the monster easier later on and just move on. I'm going to do some prep for a later episode first. I return to the Tower of Babel. Despite the bridge sinking into lava, it's back if I revisit and I can still enter the bottom half. I always thought as a kid that once you got the Falcon, it was inaccessible forever. First step is to set my cursor to keep. It always starts on the option I last choose. Next I need to fight with a security eye, but it takes a while. While looking, Kain reaches level 41. I also missed Edge reaching level 34 somewhere. But half a minute later, I find a security eye. So first I KO Cecil, Kain and Rydia to speed this up. I have Rosa choose Prey and Edge choose Steel. I then press select to enable auto battle, added for the PSP version. This speeds up the fight and automatically selects attack if your cursor is on default, but if it's on keep they will use the last command that character chooses. So it's set up so that Edge will be stealing at high speed while Rosa heals him in case he takes damage when a steal fails. I'm after Sirens, which are a rare item that forces an encounter with the most uncommon enemy in the room it's used on. I keep this going until my game footage cuts out. I'd forgotten about the PSP going to sleep when left untouched after 10 minutes. Before recording this game for this video, I hadn't actually played a PSP since 2015, 6 years earlier. When I get my recording going again, I got nearly 500 Sirens. That'll do for now. I may as well mention that I never picked up what they were going for with the naming of both airships until very recently. I knew the Falcon was a reference to the Millennium Falcon, but I never noticed that the Enterprise was specifically a reference too. I don't watch Star Trek, so while I do know the USS Enterprise, it never enters my head like the Falcon reference does. I take the Falcon all the way to the northwest corner of the underworld where there's a cave to enter. This is a Sylph Cave. I don't know how I managed to miss this place playing both the SNES and PS1 versions of the game. I never discovered it until playing the GBA version in 2007. I can't do all of B1 at once. I just go east for 2 chests and then south of the entrance is stairs to the next floor. The big thing with this dungeon are the green damage tiles, so I have to cast float on the party to walk over them unharmed. It is a pain that I have to cast float when entering every new room though. The chests contain a bestiary and angel arrows. New enemies on this floor are a bog witch and a bog toad. The witch will command all living toads to cast toad on a party member, so fights with these can drag. When all the witch's toads are dead, she'll cast toad on herself for some reason. I next move on to B2. Right now I just head north and west to take the stairs there. On this floor I get ambushed by 3 Malboros. Malboros are fucking arseholes in every game they're in. Their signature move is Bad Breath that inflicts every negative status on a party member. The only upside to this move is a quirk in that if you're wearing equipment that protects you from just one of the ailments Bad Breath causes, Bad Breath doesn't affect that character at all. But they also have strong physical attacks and the move Bile that also inflicts poison. The fight with these 3 was longer than some boss battles. Pricks. And I don't even get a level up out of it. The stairs take me down to B3. I go west through a hidden passage and north to 2 chests. Then I take the other hidden passage underneath one to a 3rd. I then return to the entrance and take the hidden passage east and north to some stairs back to B2. The chests are a high potion, Maiden's Kiss and Fairy Rod which I give to Rydia. Rosa reaches level 40 on this floor. That's the only fight I get on this floor and it's back to B2. Here I go east and south, grabbing 4 chests off to the west on the way. Then it's all the way south for 5 more chests before I drop down the hole. First fight on this floor gets me 2 more enemies, Evil Dreamer and Elder Treant. The fight after this gets Edge to level 35 and Rydia to level 39 and teaches her Blizzagar. The first 4 chests are a Bomb Core, 3000 Gil, Remedy and 2000 Gil. The 5 on the southern end are a Bestiary, Emergency Exit, Maiden's Kiss, another Maiden's Kiss and an Aether. Then it's down that hole. Back on B3, all I can do is go north and west to this exit. This puts me in the Sylph's Cache, with 6 chests to open. My first chest is a monster in a box, 6 Evil Dreamers. Best way to deal damage on a group of these is Summon Titan. Earth magic cannot be absorbed like other elements. Cecil reaches level 41 from this fight and the treasure is a Red Fang. This item does fire damage equal to half of the user's maximum HP. My second chest is another monster in a box, 2 Malboros and 2 Elder Treants. Once again, Titan is the most useful. This treasure is a Moonring Blade, a weapon for Edge stronger than an Ashura. The third chest is also a monster in a box, another 6 Evil Dreamers. The treasure is a White Fang, it functions just like a Red Fang but with ice magic. Fourth chest is a monster in a box once again, ambushed by 4 Malboros. This one takes forever. The 11,000 XP between my 2 survivors isn't even enough to level them up. My reward for this fight is the Avenger. It's a sword that permanently berserks the character equipping it. This is the only time I'll be equipping a sword to Kain, as the normal damage from this will outdo a jump with an Ice Lance. There's 2 chests left, but I'm out of resources to heal my party of all the ailments, so I'll have to use an emergency exit to leave and heal up. I return having ran from every fight to get back here quicker. As you would expect, the 5th chest is also a monster in a box. 6 more Evil Dreamers. Rosa reaches level 41 and the treasure is a Blue Fang, the lightning equivalent of the other 2. The 6th monster in a box shows me some mercy, it's just 2 tunnelers. Kain reaches level 42 and I get some Medusa arrows. The exit in this room puts me back outside. Now for my second proper trek through here. B1 is unchanged, so we'll skip ahead to B2. This time I head south and take the stairs back up to B1. I head east, past a save point and north through a hidden passage to the chest I couldn't reach when I first entered. Then back to the entrance, I go west, past the next set of stairs and north to 2 more chests, then down the stairs I passed. The first chest has an elfin bow. Once again I don't use bows in this game. The other 2 chests are 1000 gil and cottage. Back down to B2. Here I go west, north a little and down the first set of stairs I pass. It leads back to B1. I go north to 5 chests and back down the way I came. The chests are high potion, ether, lightning arrows, ice arrows and fire arrows. Back to B2. I go north and east past the next set of stairs into a hidden passage to the last chest on this floor. Then I go down those stairs. The chest is a monster in a box, a bog witch and 6 bog toads. These take forever to get anything other than a preemptive strike. The treasure is a mage masher, a dagger that deals extra damage to mage type enemies, so the witches and the summoners. Really you can equip it, but I give it to Edge. One last set of stairs takes me back to B3. Here I go west through a hidden passage to the final chest. Then it's south, east and north into this house. The chest is an elixir and I make it to the house without a fight. This is a sylph's house. They're afraid of humans but I don't care and loot their chests for a cat claws and hell claws. To the left of the entrance is an alive but comatose Yang. The sylphs refuse to hand him over and say they found him lying by the cave entrance. Of course Yang wouldn't die from just being blown up after taking the full blast of the world's strongest cannon. He's too cool for that. So when I first saw this game as a kid, I mentioned before that I never found the Sylph Cave for a few years. So when Yang shows up later very much alive and no attention is drawn to it, I was very confused. This brings up one common criticism of the game: deaths not taking. We lost Teller, Yang and Sid this episode, but only Teller actually died. I get people being frustrated by that, but I don't mind because it's Yang and Sid. If you tried telling me Kane and Edge were cool enough to survive what they did, I'd find that too unbelievable. Close to the north of Tomra is a small island with just a cave entrance on it. This is the passage of the Eidolons. Like the Sylph Cave, this place is covered in damage tiles, so I'm casting float on everyone on every floor. From the entrance I go east and north to my first chest, then west through a hidden passage to the second. I return to the first chest and go all the way south for a third chest, then move all the way west, north, west again and down the stairs. A single step in is my first fight against a new enemy, the Summoner. We get to see the insane damage boost Edge's Mage Masher does to this enemy type. I take one more step and Riddy says that she passed through here after she left the Fae March and that we should ask Leviathan for help. The first chest has a Phoenix down, the second is an Ether, the third is a High Potion. On this floor I fight my second Spider-Woman, the Arachne. Edge reaches level 36 from this fight. Near the stairs are 2 more new enemies, Fell Knight and Mini Satana. Rydia reaches level 40 from this fight. On to B2. This place is a lot more simple than the Sylph Cave. Here I go east to the first chest, then backtrack a little and go northwest for the second, then backtrack again and go east to the stairs. The first chest is a High Potion, the second is a Cottage. Cecil reaches level 42 here before I head down the stairs to B3. I head west and south, taking a hidden passage to the 3 chests. I then take said passage all the way around to the southeast corner and come out for the 4th chest. West from there is the 5th chest. I go east a little and north, ignore the exit to go east through a wall, north, then west to the 6th chest, then I use the exit. My first fight on this floor gets me a new floating eye variant, the Blood Eye. The first 3 chests are a High Potion, Poison Axe and Kiku Ichimonji. Cecil gets the Poison Axe but it requires 2 hands so I have to give up a shield. The Kiku Ichimonji replaces the Mage Masher on Edge. The next new enemy I face is a Gargoyle variant, the Belphegor. The 4th chest has a Bestiary and the 5th a Phoenix down. The 6th chest is a monster in a box. 5 Fell Knights ambush me. This gets me the Defender. It's already an upgrade of the Poison Axe, more strength, boost defense, and I can have my shield back. On the way to the exit, Edge reaches level 37. I hang outside the exit because I still don't have all the monsters here added to my Bestiary yet. It doesn't take long to get what I'm after, a summoner that summons a Thunder Dragon, a palette swap of Golbear's Shadow Dragon. He has the most HP of any random encounter so far, but he's still not a threat. From this fight, Kane reaches level 43 and Rosa reaches level 42. Now I can take the exit and finally enter the Fae March. The monsters here love Rydia for how long she spent with them. Northwest of the entrance is a chest containing an Ether. North of that is a chest with a Bestiary. I then head around to the east side for a chest with 5000 gil. South of that is 6000 gil in a chest. There's also this tile here that takes me to a secret room with 4 more chests. Yoichi Arrows, Elixir, Dry Ether and Yoichi Bow. On the north end of the floor is the exit to the middle floor, but I step back on it afterwards to be able to reach another chest with a rat tail. This will be very important. On the middle floor there's an item shop and inn. People in here will talk about the Eidolons I already have and say that they all live here, but we will never actually see them. West of the inn is a house with a save point and 2 chests, a bestiary and the Phoenix Down. South of that house is the Eidolon Library, with more info on them all. South of that is a weapon shop. I just buy Rosa and Aura Staff. East is an armour shop where I buy Cecil and Kain an Aegis Shield and Luminous Robe for Rydia. Back in the library, I go downstairs where there's more Eidolon info. Of note is the mention of Odin and his only loss being caused by lightning striking his sword. We also learn that there was only 1 moon to this planet instead of the 2 they have now. There's mention of Bahamut and needing to use his own power against him. A huge whale once came from the moon and now sleeps inside a dragon. I go downstairs further into the royal chamber. Here there's some old man and Queen Asura. Rydia asks for her help, but Asura says she must first prove her worth in battle. Asura has 31,005 HP. She starts by casting Protect on herself and regularly casts Curaga and Curager on herself, so we need to outpace her healing. She'll counter attacks with physical attacks of her own, the strength of said attack being determined by which of the 3 faces she rolls when she does so. I have Cecil, Kain and Edge attack, while Rosa casts Reflect on Asura so her healing spells bounce off and hit me. I also have Rydia summon Titan. Once you have Reflect on her and keep reapplying it when it wears off, it's just a matter of keeping yourself healed from those physicals. She isn't too bad. Having proven her worth, Rydia can now summon Asura. After healing, I talk to the old man next to her. He reveals himself to be Leviathan. Defeating Asura has given us permission to test ourselves against him. Leviathan has 50,001 HP and a weakness to lightning. When his mouth opens he'll use Deluge, an attack that hits the entire party for what would normally be a lot of damage, but I'm a bit over level for this fight. When his mouth is closed he'll cast Blizzara. As usual, Rosa is set to heal and Cecil and Kain are attacking. I have Edge casting Blitz and Rydia casting Thundera and summoning Rama to hit that lightning weakness. I should have leveled up just a bit more to teach a Thundaga. Leviathan is probably easier than Asura, he just takes longer thanks to the 19,000 extra HP. With Leviathan defeated, he also joins Rydia's summon list. He's probably my strongest Eidolon at the moment. That's everything done in here, now I can leave. Just south of the Fae March, I'm finally going to deal with the Sealed Cave. This is the last full dungeon I'll be covering this episode, but it won't be ending right after like last episode. We've seen the only time I give Kain a sword, now here is the only time I give him an axe. I use the necklace to open the door and enter the dungeon proper. From the entrance of B1 I go south, down the rope and through this door for 2 chests. I then grab the 3rd chest southwest of that door, then go west and north up another rope to the next door. But here comes this dungeon's gimmick. All the doors are monsters. The trapdoor starts by targeting a party member. It then casts 9th Dimension, which instantly kills them. They also have Surprise, which transforms them into another monster. In most cases it's a new enemy, this Chimera Brain. Their Frost Blast is a pain as it tends to kill off your newly revived 9th Dimension victim again. Killing this one gets Rydia to level 41. The chest this door gives me access to Arako Tetsu, which is weaker than the Kikuichi Monji so I don't bother with it, and an Aether. The 3rd chest is a bestiary. Every entrance from now on is guarded by a trapdoor. Cecil reaches level 43 from this one. On to the next room. I shouldn't have to map this one. There's 2 chests here and 2 trapdoors. I go from west to east dealing with them. First chest has a high potion, second has an Aether. One way to deal with a trapdoor is to lower the battle speed in the options and cast Reflect on the party member it targets. 9th Dimension will be reflected and the trapdoor will be killed without having to deal with the Chimera Brain. Edge reaches level 38 and learns Mirage, which casts Blink on himself. That's all of his skills learned. Killing the western one leads to an empty room. Killing the eastern one also gets me an empty room. I get a new enemy, the Vampire Bat. On to B2. I go down the rope directly south of the stairs to grab my first chest, then backtrack and go east across the bridge to the second. I go north and then west, dealing with all 6 trapdoors on the way. From right to left, the second door has a chest, the third has 3 and the 6th has 2. Then go south to the final trapdoor and go through it after. The first chest has a bestiary and the second a Phoenix Down. Killing the first door gets Rosa to level 43, it leads to an empty room. Killing the second gets Kain to level 44. The chest in here contains a Lustrous Sword. It's inferior to the Defender in every way. That can happen when you do side quests as early as possible. Killing the 3rd trapdoor gets Cecil to level 44, Edge to level 39, and Rydia to level 42 so she can learn Thyraga. The 3 chests in that room get me a Fuma Shuriken, an Elixir, and a Light Curtain. On the way out, my next new enemy is a Vampirus, and I hate this formation too. Vampires and bats are just the worst together in this game. Killing the 4th trapdoor is an empty room so I don't even check it. Right after is another new Leshy variant, the Lesser Marolith. Killing the 5th trapdoor gets me a save room. I kill the 6th trapdoor and the last 2 chests of this floor are a Kotetsu and Black Cowl. I give a Black Cowl to Edge. Rosa reaches level 44 on the way to the last door. Taking out the final trapdoor on this floor gets Edge to level 40. It leads to another room I shouldn't have to explain, east to west with a single chest. This one has an ether. Next room is also easy. Chest to the right, trapdoor on the left, exit south. The chests are a high potion and the phoenix down. Trapdoor goes down like the rest and Kain reaches level 45. It gets me another empty room. I then exit into B3. I go south across the bridge, then east to a trapdoor. Further east is the first chest. I go west to this rope and down it, then go east to another trapdoor leading to 2 more chests, then west to the stairs to the next floor. Killing the first trapdoor gets Cecil to level 45 and Rydia to level 43. It also gets me another empty room. The first chest contains a silent bell. I kill the second trapdoor and the 2 chests it gets me contain a dry ether and an X potion. I get through this entire floor with no other fights. B4 is just a save room. I heal up and keep going south. The next room in B4 has me go east and south to the bottom end of the room, then west and north to more stairs. I don't get a single fight in this room. And B5 is just me going north across a bridge to the final trapdoor. Killing said trapdoor gives me access to the crystal chamber, where I can grab the dark crystal and leave. But as I leave, the wall in the previous room closes in after me, and I don't have a pair of 5-year-olds to sacrifice this time. The demon wall has 28,000 HP and is constantly inching towards me, throwing out physical attacks. If it gets close enough, it will use Crush, which is an instant kill on a party member, so we've got to be quick. This isn't too bad. The guys are attacking, Rydia casting Blizzaga, but most important is Rosa. She can cast Slow on the demon wall and completely remove the urgency, letting me beat it to death rather easily. With that done, it's time to walk out. Edge reaches level 41 on the way, but once we get back to the entrance, we hear Golbez's voice trying to take control of Kain for the crystal. Kain says he's no longer under Golbez's control, then a second later proves himself a fucking liar by stealing the crystal and walking out. No one tries to stop him. Both Kain and Golbez say that now the Tower of Babel can be reactivated and the path to the moon will open. How did Kain even get out of this place without an airship? Well, from now on the Tower of Babel is inaccessible forever, we just can't walk in. The PSP version did leave out an important detail though. In previous versions, at this point the Tower of Babel has a multicoloured barrier surrounding it. It's there on the SNES and PS1 version, and it's there on GBA, but for the PSP it just stays its normal colour. All we can do now is return to King Jot and hope he doesn't think we're working for the enemy and deliberately fucking things up. He says their only hope is the legend of the Lunar Whale. It's a huge ship spoken of in legend, prompting Jot to start reciting the Mysidian legend. Cecil identifies it and Jot is surprised to learn that Mysidia actually exists. As soon as Cecil mentions that the Elder is praying, Jot believes he must be praying for the Lunar Whale and that I must rush there. But we're reminded that the exit near Agarth is still sealed and the Tower of Babel is blocked off. So Cid barges out of his hospital bed to save the day again. He's gonna attach a giant fucking drill to the Falcon because that's how Cid goes. Another building montage involving Edge slacking off and flirting and Cid giving him an earful and kicking his ass. But this is all too much for a man who was blown up recently and he collapses. He's finished the drill, but he's finally hit his limit and has to bow out now. Even Edge finally has some respect for him after this. Many thanks between everyone ensues and he asks Rydia and Edge to look after Cecil and Rosa for him. I'll keep saying it, this Cid is the best Cid. Before I head up to the overworld, I take one more stop back at that free tile island and use a siren to get that rarest encounter. It's a mystery egg that hatches into a yellow dragon. These counter every attack with a full party lightning spell, but at this point they aren't a threat. With that done, now I can drill my way out of that mountain, cue another DS cutscene. But before I go to Mysidia, I have a few other things to deal with. I can return to Troia to let Edward know that Yang is alive. He reminds me to tell his wife, which I go do. She doesn't take kindly to finding out her husband is asleep in the underworld and isn't coming home, and gives me a frying pan to deal with that. Just west of Damcian is a rather pointless chocobo forest that can only be reached by either black chocobo or airship. I grab the Gysahl greens here and leave. I stop by Ablan to swap the Falcon for the Enterprise and grab the hovercraft. I take it to Mithril and use the hovercraft to reach this cave. This is the Adamantile Grotto. The guy here collects rare tails, so I give him the rat tail and in exchange he gives me the adamantite that Kokol was wanting. South of Troia is another chocobo forest I missed. I grab the Gysahl greens and leave. Back to the underworld, I return to Kokol's forge and give him the adamantite. He has his passion back, takes the Mythgraven blade from Cecil and gets to work enhancing it. It'll be done later. Now for Yang, I have to go back through the Sylph Cave again. On the way, Rosa reaches level 45 and learns Arise, which revives a fallen party member with full health. I return to Yang and whack him over the head with the frying pan, making him think his wife is waking him up for training and telling us a little too much about their relationship. Yang intends to join the party again, but he's still too injured from also having been blown up and the Sylphs won't let him. Edge says he'll cover for Yang, saying he's probably better. Fuck Edge. The Sylphs say they will fight in his place and join Rydia's growing list of Eidolons. I will never use them. My next act is to return to Baron Castle's East Tower to check in on the king now I've finally visited the Feymarch. It seems being killed by Kanyatso made him even more powerful. If he can defeat him in battle, he'll join Rydia as an Eidolon. He's actually Odin. Odin has 20,001 HP and a lightning weakness, as hinted at in the Eidolon library. Once he raises his sword, he will use his signature attack, Zantetsuken, to deal major damage to the entire party. I am unlikely to survive one of these even at this point, so I have the battle speed lowered to its slowest point. I have Rosa slow him, Cecil attacking, Edge casting Blitz, and Rydia casting Blizzaga because I don't have Thundaga and it's still a lot of damage anyway. He raises his sword, but I take him out first. The king tells Cecil that he must protect Baron and the world with his power, and we now have another Eidolon for Rydia. I return to Sheila and give her back a frying pan. In return, she gives me a kitchen knife. It's a unique throwing item that deals the full 9,999 damage, but since there's only one of it, I won't use it. Only thing left to do now is return to Mysidia. The Elder meets us at the entrance and has us follow him to the Tower of Prayer. Once again the Mysidian legend is shown. The Elder, the mages and the party all pray for the legend to come true. We get the results and see what Born of a Dragon means. The land surrounding Mysidia is shaped like a dragon's head, and from the mouth we get the DS cutscene of the lunar whale rising from the sea. A voice told the Elder in his dreams that Cecil must fly to the moon as someone is waiting for him there. The lunar whale is from the moon and has a crystal inside that can take us there. The inside of the lunar whale has beds for free healing, a free fat chocobo, and it can fly around the overworld too. But it's too big to fit through the entrance to the underworld. I activate that crystal and it does in fact fly me to the moon. This is where I leave it, but there's still one last thing to do. I return to the overworld, then take the Enterprise to the underworld. Reaching the moon is what triggers Coco to finish upgrading the Mythgraven blade. He has reforged it into Excalibur, which has a massive 57 attack increase over the Defender. And that's it for this episode. Next episode, we'll see what secrets await Cecil and the party on the moon.